Welcome tonight to the first of our monthly workshops for parents here at Farmington Presbyterian Church and Day School. I'm Reverend Rebecca Luter, the pastor here at Farmington, and whether you are joining us on the live stream tonight or you are watching this at a later time, we welcome you and we hope that this is helpful for you and your family. My own background, I'm the pastor here at the church. I taught 3-year-olds, I've been a nanny, and I'm a mother to 2 children who are now 17 and 14. And so I thought we would begin this year. Sometimes the teachers talk to me about, I just wish the parents knew these things. And so I thought we would start with things that the teachers wish that parents knew about their child's education, and particularly about preschool education. I have vetted these items with the teachers, and they have also given me feedback and information about things that they want to be sure you know, and reminders for you. So I encourage you to take notes if you'd like, and if you're on the live stream to chat or ask questions, that is wonderful, and it is only in asking questions that we learn. So the most important moment of your child's day. Anybody have any idea what that moment would be? It's probably not the moment that you would think about right off. 6 o'clock. We close at 6 o'clock. Whenever you pick up your child, that is the most important moment of their day, because they have been waiting for you all day long. They've been reminded that you'll be back and that you love them, and of course you always come back. They've had a good time and they have things they want to share. But when you return, when you first come into that room, they get a window into how much you have missed them. And their biggest competition is this. So the first thing that the teachers wish that parents knew was, if you're on the phone before you get to the day school, finish up your conversation before you come in. Put that phone away. Put it in your pocket, someplace where your child can't see it, because in those first moments that you are back with your child, they need to reconnect with you emotionally. They need your undivided attention. And then don't ever forget to take home their bag. That bag has all the things of their day in it. Empty it together. Read everything and ask them questions about it. And then keep their work. I was with a family whose child had begun to not participate in class. She wouldn't answer the question about what she liked when the teacher asked and was going to write it down on the paper. She wouldn't color. She wouldn't share what she hoped to be when she grew up. She wouldn't draw. Everybody was perplexed until I asked her why. Mom and Dad don't care about it anyway, she said. The child's papers had come home in her bag, and after the bag had gotten pretty full, it would get cleaned out and set on the kitchen counter and then eventually pushed off into the garbage can. She didn't see the point. Her family was shocked. They got a piece of twine and they hung it across the kitchen by the door to the garage. And from then on, her schoolwork was clipped to it. And you know what? She started caring again. Now, can you guess what the single largest factor in whether or not your child has a good day at school is? Any ideas what it might be? bedtime routine. You see, if you get home from school and you sit down together and you have supper and you make eye contact, I know that's in an ideal world. I have 2 children, and I know that it doesn't happen every night, but it's really important to try to sit down and to talk with one another, and then to have a routine to get to bed. Oop, wrong way. What do you notice about these pictures? Do you notice that they're touching? Do you notice that they're reading? Sit down first with the time that your child gets up in the morning, and then count backward. Your child gets about 2 hours of sleep maximum at nap time, and they need 13 hours of sleep every 24 hours. So whatever time they wake up, count back 11 hours. Most children need to be asleep by either 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. So your goal is to get home, to have something to eat, to take a bath, and to read a story, to connect with your child, and then for them to go to sleep. I know it's hard. Supper, bath, teeth, reading, singing, sleep. What can make it a little easier the next day is if you've gone ahead and picked out what they're going to wear to school the next day. Let your child learn how to dress him or herself. When my 14-year-old was in preschool, she was a typical peer in a special needs class. And she was there one morning, and I was there to help on the field trip. And the teachers had gone to meet the bus, and I was helping get everybody's coats on. And as I put on a coat, I zipped it up. And my daughter came to me, and she said, "No, Mom." And she unzipped it. And she said, "Now you can do it." Now that was out of the mouth of a 4-year-old. Our children can dress themselves. It takes a little practice. So get them something to practice with, a manipulative or a doll where they can zip and snap and button, because it's also really important for your child to feel confident about being able to get to the restroom and get back from the restroom and not have an accident because they couldn't manipulate their snaps and their zippers. So go ahead and get them something to be able to learn to do that. And then notice the weather. I know that most of the time you and I run in a building and run right back out. And so we don't need heavy winter coats and gloves and hats and scarves most of the time. But your children are here all day long, and they go outside most of the time for 20 minutes at a time at least. And they need coats and hats and gloves and scarves when it's cold. So please do think about what's weather appropriate for someone who's going to be outside for a length of time. And speaking of that, closed-toed shoes. I got a special note from a teacher about that, to please emphasize the importance of having closed-toed shoes. Why would we care? Because it makes your children uncomfortable. They play on mulch, and the mulch gets in their shoes, and they spend most of their recess sitting on the ground shaking out their sandals. So please go ahead and get them a good pair of tennis shoes and let them wear those every day. Okay. Morning drop-off. I have a lot of to-dos on that one, don't I? This is not the time for the teacher to talk with you. This is the time for the teacher to connect with your children. The most important thing for them to do is set the tone for the day and to greet the children in that time. So if you need to talk with the teacher, go ahead and text them ahead of time or email them ahead of time and say, or even write them a note and hand it to them and say, "I need to talk with you at your earliest convenience," or "I'd like to make an appointment with you." Because it's really important for your child and for all of the class to get off on the right foot as people arrive in the morning. If there is something going on in your family, know that your child's teacher needs to know that. If you are particularly stressed, your child feels it. Whether they can say that and articulate what's going on with them emotionally, they sense your tension. And so they need extra grace and extra care. And so if you can even just let the teacher know, hey, it's been a difficult morning for me, and my child might need a little bit of extra love today. That's all you really have to say. We'll make sure they get it. Also be aware of the frequency and the time of your contacts to the teachers. Sometimes I have teachers who say to me, I really don't like getting texts at 10 o'clock at night. Well, I can understand that. So unless it's really an emergency, wait until the next day. Or think about weekends. They aren't paid to work 24/7. So please do be considerate of their time. We do have time during the day when they are available for appointments, and we would be happy to make that appointment for you. Okay, what's going on in this picture? I see a child who's not very happy. I wonder if he got enough sleep. Or maybe he doesn't feel well. When your child doesn't feel well, they need you. Take the opportunity. As the mother of two teenagers, take the opportunity to get all the cuddles you can get. Take the time to be there, to be with them when they are sick. I wonder if maybe he didn't have breakfast today, or maybe they were rushed getting out of the house. I wonder if mom told him where they were going and prepared him for the day. Or maybe he hasn't seen mom. Maybe she's been gone out of town, and then he has to go back to school again, and he hasn't had enough time with his family. Or perhaps a promise has recently been broken. Tricking children breaks trust. And so if you say to your child, I'll be back at 1 o'clock, be here at 1 o'clock. I'll bring cupcakes for your class. Do it. Be sure the teacher's okay with it before you do it. But whatever you promise your child, please do that. Tell your child ahead of time what time you plan to be back. If you say, we're going to go into your classroom, and I'm going to hang your bag in your cubby, and I'm going to give you one hug and a kiss, and you're going to go wash your hands, then leave. Tell them what you're going to do, and then do it. Their tears are for your benefit. Once you've been gone for about 30 seconds, 99.9% of the time, your child has stopped crying and is playing and laughing and having a good time. If your child is upset for an extended period of time, someone will come and will either relieve the teacher so that the teacher can walk down the hallway with them and gently distract them to other things and talk about the bulletin board, or ask them questions about their weekend or something that they know they love, until they're ready to move back into the classroom. Or if they're just so upset that they can't move back into the classroom, we'll let you know so that you can come and get them. We don't want children to be upset all day long. Don't get caught peeking. Do not get caught peeking. That is directly from the teachers. Don't come around to the windows. Don't hang out outside the door. If your child sees you, their interpretation of that will be, Mom or Dad is worried, and I should be worried too. It gives them the signal that you are upset or concerned, or that you don't trust that this is a safe place, and it upsets them. So please don't get caught peeking. If you would like for the teacher the first day of school or a day that you know your child is really upset to send you a text when that child is happy again, we'll do it. But please don't get caught peeking looking for them. Okay. Once we get to lunch, what's great about this lunchbox? There's nothing to open. Get a lunchbox that your child can carry that is child-sized, and make sure the portions are correct. If you look in here, there's only half a sandwich. There's a few blueberries and a few baby carrots. Those are some cheese puffs, and those are some jelly beans. Your child doesn't need that much to eat. They don't need as much as you need to eat. They need 3 to 5 ounces of grains a day. They need about a cup to a cup and a half of vegetables. They need the same amount of fresh fruit. They really only need about 4 ounces of juice. They need 2 to 2.5 cups of dairy. And they need about 2 to 4 ounces of meat, which we think of as one meal portion for ourselves. So children really don't need that much to eat. Now, school is not the place to try new things. They won't eat it. Don't put something they've never seen before in their lunchbox. Don't do that. It will just get thrown away. Now, I will say that my children had some very unusual lunches. They liked Mediterranean lunches, and so they typically had feta and pepperoni, black olives, and crackers. Nobody understands why. That's just what they liked, and that's what they ate. And it was fine because it was all small. It was all something they could pick up with their hands and eat, and it all got eaten and was healthy. And they could do it themselves. Pop quiz time. What's wrong with this? Mr. Doug, do you have an answer? What's wrong with this? It's closed and hard to open. If you can't open it easily, your 3, 4, 5-year-old will not be able to open it. It will be very frustrating. It will be a mess, and they will have fruit juice down their front. So please do not send things that are hard for them to open. What's wrong with this? What could ever be wrong with Oreos? There are 4 Oreos in that package. 3 Oreos are a serving for an adult. 1 Oreo is a serving for a preschooler. It's fine to stick an Oreo in their lunch, but they only need 1. Speaking of too much sugar, it looks healthy, doesn't it? It's yogurt, after all, and they need dairy, but it has too much sugar. It has 20 grams of sugar, and your child only needs 25 grams a day. That's a lot of sugar to put into one thing. What could be wrong with a Go-Gurt? It's really hard to open, it's really hard to control, and your child is going to wear yogurt down their front and not feel very comfortable. So we'll skip the Go-Gurts. These we like. Why would we like this? It has 10 grams of sugar, it has calcium and potassium, and all you need to be able to eat it is a straw. Stick it in the top, they can drink it, it works great. That's enough about lunches. I love to watch how your children develop. They start out scribbling, and then they begin to have some meaningful scribbles. See that person right there with the eyes and the mouth? And then they start telling us a story. This is the first day of school. There's the child. Here are the classrooms. This is the school. And then they begin to be more developed in their ability to draw a face and facial features and hands and feet and a body. They move from scribbling to something more meaningful, to something more recognizable, and then they're ready to write. Now, it doesn't mean that the child who produced this art is more developmentally advanced than the child who produced this art. It just means that they have developed in their writing ability with their fine motor skills first, before they've developed in another area. Every child develops at their own pace, and every child develops in one area at a time. So if your child is learning to run, they're not also going to learn to hold a crayon at the same time. They'll work on gross motor and then fine motor. They'll work on growing taller and then on catching a ball. They'll work on getting potty trained before they form additional words. So they focus their energy, without ever thinking about it, unconsciously, on one area at a time. And no two children follow the same path for which areas they develop when, or how long it takes. But they all follow the same steps. We know that they go from scribbling to something recognizable, to something we can even understand the story of, to something that is almost ready to begin to write. So there is really no reason to stress or compare or worry. Your child's going to get there at their own speed. Now, that was direct from a teacher. The other thing direct from a teacher is that the kindergarten teachers that we have talked with have said repeatedly, and they say it more and more, what we want children to be able to do when they come to kindergarten is function in a group. That's more important than whether or not your child can write their name. They'll learn to write. They will learn to read. They will learn their colors. They will learn their numbers. They will learn their shapes. But they must learn to function in a group, or they can't learn any of those things. And even if they do, they won't benefit them long term in life. So, if what we're really concerned about is the social emotional growth of your children, then why in the world do we test their developmental milestones? Your children will be being tested in a few weeks after they've gotten settled into school and they're comfortable with their teachers, and then you'll hear how your child is doing on a scale of what would be expected for a child at their age. So why do we do that? The first reason is so that we know what your child needs us to focus on with them. The second is to be able to track growth. Have they improved from or developed from August or September to April or May? Or have they regressed? Or have they made amazing strides? We want to be able to track that. And if there's a regression, we want to be able to help you know that there has been a regression and also ask questions about why, what's going on. Because there's always something behind that social emotionally when a child regresses. And to offer enrichment early. It is really important for your child to get early intervention if we see that they are not meeting their developmental milestones. Now, that can seem really scary to a parent. I tease that the Nile is not just a river in Africa. The Nile is right here whenever we say something is going on with our own children. It's really hard to hear. But you are your child's detective. You want to find out everything you can know about your child and how they learn so that you can help their teachers, not just here, not just next year, but all the way through, meet your child's needs. I will tell you personally, when my child was in preschool, in 3-year-old preschool, the preschool teacher said to me, I think that your child needs to be tested. He perhaps has autism. And so we did have a full psychological panel done, and we began to work on areas and did the detective work and tried to figure out what was going on, and why was he not learning his letters and his letter sounds, and why was he not responding to questions appropriately or responding at all when he was asked questions. And we discovered some things through research and through testing him that he's a whole learner, which means he has to understand the whole picture before he will look at and learn the parts. So once he understood that in order to read, he had to be able to know his letter sounds, he was willing to learn his letter sounds. That's been true all the way through school, even to his senior year in high school. So just like you counted their fingers and their toes, you want to know as much as you can possibly know about your child. And I assure you that while we are not doctors or diagnosticians, we see a lot of children. And so we know when there is something that is just a little bit different, or when a child is just struggling a little bit more, then we want to see them struggle. And so we're going to come to you and say, it's different. It could be different good. It could be different a problem. It could be different interesting. But we don't know why we see different. We know that we do see different. And let me assure you that when a teacher comes to you and says that, they have had a lot of sleepless nights. It's hard to say to a parent, I see something that makes me concerned. And so if a teacher says that to you, I hope that you will hear their heart and begin to do that detective work to see what is going on, because truly, when your children are preschoolers, they can make up by leaps and bounds what is harder for them to learn later. Speaking of speech delays, I was asked by one of the teachers to talk specifically about the fact that we do have speech therapy here at the school during the school day available. Your child needs to be able to express him or herself. When children don't have words, they get angry, they get frustrated, they hit, they bite, they kick, and it is easier for them to learn if you intervene early and to correct any kind of speech impediment they might have. They will communicate better with their peers, which will make it easier for them to feel confident with their friends. We are seeing a lot of children these days with speech delay. I think some of it is masks. The last 2 years with masks on has not allowed them to see how our mouths move as often, and that has been difficult for children who are learning to talk. I also think it has to do with this, because when I'm looking down at my phone and talking, you don't get to see my mouth move. And that is really important for a child, for their speech development, to watch people talk. So I encourage you to talk with your children, and that's part of why it's really important to sit down at the table at mealtime so that they can watch at eye level how you make words and how you form words, and they can emulate you. And then ask about their day. These are 4 pictures of a classroom here. There's a block center, there's a dramatic play center, there's a fine motor center, there's an art center. Every room has centers. And I encourage you to ask your child, what centers did you go to today? Or ask them about a child in their class just randomly by name. If you ask your child, how was your day, you're likely to not get any answer at all, because they don't know how to answer that. They're not developmentally in a place that they understand chronology, and they don't remember their day the way we remember our days. And so it's really important to ask specific questions and to ask for something that has a little bit of a prompt to it. What made you laugh today? Who was silly today? What book did you like today? Who in your class likes to build with blocks? You might want to take a picture of your child's classroom when you drop them off so that you can ask specific questions about, have you ever played with this? Or, I saw the barn in your room. Who likes to play with the barn? just begin that conversation with your child. And every room has a calm down center. All of us need space to calm down. Children are not learning to make eye contact. They're not able to read people's emotions and cues because people aren't interacting with them as often. And so we encourage them to have a time when they get upset to calm down. You might ask your child, have you ever gone to the calm down center in your room? What do you like to play with there? One of the things that we are finding is that children are not aware of their own emotions. And that's something that psychologists are now talking about in teenagers and in adults, because as children, they weren't able to identify their emotions. And so one of the things I encourage you to do, and I encourage our teachers to do, is to use emotion cards and expression cards in talking with the children. How are you feeling right now? And you lay out the cards and you let them pick which face matches how you feel right now. And then talk about that. Is it sad? Is it scared? Is it silly? It's okay for them to express how they're feeling, and they need to learn how to express what they're feeling. And so I encourage you to consider having a calm down center in your own home as well. Now, along with that, I will say that sometimes we use a screen as our calm down center. And I really encourage you to limit the use of the screen to 30 minutes a day. And that includes the time that you're in the car and the screen has the movie playing while you're driving someplace. That's included in your 30 minutes. And limit it for yourself at home as well. I know now I'm getting in your business. Discipline and your child. Almost done here. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't threaten things that you're not willing to follow through with. And be consistent. So think about ahead of time. If I say, I'm going to take your doll and throw it away, if you are actually willing to put that doll on the street for the trash man to take away. Because if you're not, don't say it. Say, I'm going to take this doll and put it on the refrigerator. That's fine, as long as you'll do that. But whatever you threaten your child with as a discipline, and I know threaten is not a nice word, but whatever you share is going to be the discipline, follow through with it. And know that your child will test your boundaries. That's part of what children do. The reason children test boundaries is because they need boundaries, they want boundaries. They want to ensure that you are really in charge, and that allows them to feel safe and secure. And so when they push your boundaries, stay firm. That gives them the ability to be calm and peaceful for themselves, to know that they are safe and secure and you're in charge, and they don't have to be. Now, good behavior is expected. There are no rewards in life for good behavior. Rewards are for exceptional sacrifice or going above and beyond, and rewards are not previewed. Don't tell your child, when we go to Walmart, if you're good, you'll get a treat. No, don't say that. Because they're expected to be good. And if everything has a treat, they will become dependent upon what's my next treat. And that's not the way we live our lives. Say no to them. Practice saying no. I tease my children sometimes that they're in a season of no. Because sometimes they need to be in a season of no. No does not require anyone to have a reason. Because I said so is sometimes what I say. I try not to say that. But usually I just say, I said no. I don't need a reason. I don't owe you an explanation. I am not going to negotiate. It is okay for a parent to say no, without questions, without argument, and for that answer to just be accepted. Now, teach your children about prediction, cause and effect, and consequences. I had a great board book when my kids were little that was all about predicting what might happen next. I think it was a Blue's Clues board book. But prediction is really important. I wonder what will happen if. Children need to learn that the world has predictable patterns. That helps them feel safe. It also helps them understand the way the world works. We also need to learn cause and effect. If I pick up this book and I drop it, we know what the effect will be, right? There are things in life that are causes and effects. And so we have to learn that we can cause things and there's an effect. And sometimes that effect is known as a consequence. It is really important for our children to learn about consequences. If you don't share, no one is going to want to be your friend. There's a great book called Minosaur that you can check out from the library to read to your kids about that. If you hit, your friends are going to avoid you. It's important to talk through social interactions and help your children understand what the consequences will be of their actions. And then, as a parent, be consistent, have rules, and be clear. My personal 3 rules at my house are: tell the truth. Truth is the foundation of all relationships. Don't intentionally harm. And have your siblings back because they are the person you will always have. 3 rules. It's made life pretty easy. Okay. Final slide. What's your goal? I told you what our goal is. It's to help your children to be socially, emotionally ready for the next step in their education and in their life. I encourage you to think about what your goals are for your child. First, begin to give your children single-step instructions, because one of the first things we need to learn how to do is follow instructions. And then add a second step, and then a third step, and then set up a chore chart. Now, what are some things that your child can do now as a chore? They can put clothes in the hamper. They can wipe off the table. They can bring their plate to the sink. They can help carry in groceries. They can help match socks. Give your child the opportunity to be independent in every possible way, because your goal for them is to be an adult someday. Thanks for being here tonight. If there are questions, I would love to answer them. No questions. Thank you so much. Have a good night.